this is my 1993 four-wheel drive Toyota 4runner. I'm going to be doing front brakes and rotors on this. Here are some of the tools you'll need. So you'll need a dead blow hammer, a sledge, not required, but it helps, impact, and a electric ratchet. I got the new pads and hardware over here, new rotor over there, a torque wrench, doesn't need to be a digital one, any one works. You're gonna need these little, what are they called? I forgot the actual kind of plier these are. And then a brake caliper spreader, some line spins pliers. You're gonna need a 19 mil, a 17 mil, a 12 mil, and that's a 19, a 14 mil. You also will need a pry bar, and then a long ratchet definitely helps. Okay, so here we are. I got the pads out. So to get the pads out, there's this little retaining, the retainer, and it hooks over the bottom retaining pin and hooks over the top like that and just sits right in here. So to get this out, what you do is you just pry the top off, and then this bottom part will pop off. And then you have this little retaining clip. This retaining clip will go up here. It'll slide into the retaining pins and into the caliper, and you can just pry that off pretty easy. And then up here and down here, two retaining pins will slide out, and then that will be free of the pads. Take a pry bar and like wedge it a little bit back there. Don't hit the piston though, because if you hit the piston, you might rupture the little boot, and you don't want that. But once they're free, you kind of just wiggle the pads out and they slide right out. So now the next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna unbolt the tie rod back here. So it's just a bolt here and then a bolt like right back here. They are, I believe they're a 17 or a 19, but that will unbolt the tie rod. So what that does is it will allow you to swing this guy freely back and forth, but also this hard brake line will just sit freely. So what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to take the caliper off and just like lay it up here. Okay, so next what we're gonna do, now that we have the caliper off, I recommend just getting a hook or like a bungee cord and hanging it like that, so that way it's nice and out of the way. And with the tie rod, this is nice and free. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take this guy off. It is a 12 millimeter. And so after you take this guy off, there's a little cone back here. What I recommend doing is just taking a sledge and hitting back here, and it will shoot the cone out. Put the nut itself right on the end, and so once it's on the end, what you can do is it'll prevent the cone from ejecting itself. So I forgot, you might actually have to take this off first. So this is like a little dust shield. I recommend just getting a flathead and hitting it. For this, I use a dead blow or like a rubber mallet, just so you're not doing a ton of damage. So now that this is off, a little dust cover, you can see this little bolt right here. It's a 12 mil, and I'm just gonna put a ratchet on it and take it off. So next, this little dust cover, it just comes right off. There will be grease, it will be gross. So next thing you're gonna do, you're gonna take your little clip pliers. There's a little clip in here, and then behind the clip, there's a little ring that comes out. And then after that, you have your main axle bolt, and then behind that is a lock washer, and then behind the lock washer is another axle bolt. So I'm gonna start with this guy. I forgot to mention, this is the socket that you need to get for doing Toyota axles. I'm pretty sure a 32 mil works for this, or like a 36. But I'd recommend just getting the tool. They have it on places like Yotashop. Okay, those nuts are not very tight. They're just kind of hand tight, not hand tight. The torque, there's a specific way to torque them. And I'll go over that later, but for now, that's really all you have to do to take the front out. You want to be careful because the front of the wheel bearing is in here, and so you don't want to mess it up when you take this off. There's that wheel bearing. So right here on the back of the rotor, what we have is 6 14 mil bolts. Right here is the oil seal, and then in here is the inner bearing. Since we're not replacing the inner bearing, I want to do my best to save this. But this guy, I'm replacing it. And then here's what the other side looks like. So here's that oil seal I was talking about, and there's the part number. So it's pretty easy to get it out. What I did was I took a pry bar, wedged it in here, boom, just like that, held onto the rotor. So just like that, it pops out. It's pretty easy. In here is your bearing. I'm not replacing it, so I don't need to worry about that. Here's that new seal. Make sure that it goes in the same way that it came out. So there's like kind of a dip, like a lip on this, and then this side's kind of flat, so the flat side goes up. So make sure you use a rubber mallet to do that because you don't want to damage it. Next thing we're going to do, 14 mil, we're going to take off all these bolts. All right, so now you have to separate the rotor from the hub. Easiest way to do that, just tap it with a sledge. Just like that, comes off. You want to grab your brand new, nice and shiny rotor. Line it up, and then start screwing these guys back in. 45 foot-pounds. Okay, hard part's over. Now, time to throw everything back together. Torquing procedure for this, you're gonna torque it to 40 foot-pounds. You're gonna spin it to the right 6 times, torque it again to 40 foot-pounds, spin it to the left 6 times, torque it again to 40 foot-pounds, spin it to the right, and then you're gonna loosen it and then torque it to 20 foot-pounds. All right, so next you want to use your brake caliper spreader. Spread those pistons open so that way you can get the brand new pads back in, because these new pads are a lot thicker than your older pads. So since your piston has pressed out farther, they won't fit. So that's why you have to press them back in. The reason I have the hood up, you want to double check your brake fluid from the reservoir up here, because when you compress them, it might overflow the reservoir. So you just want to double check, make sure you're not making a huge mess. So to put the pads back in, you want to make sure that you have your your slide pins, your retaining clip, the other retaining clip, front and rear brake pads. Make sure that you look at your brake pads and compare them to the ones that you took off. Make sure that they look the same and make sure that they're oriented the same way. As you can see, these two pads are different. So the difference being, this guy has the bigger wear indicator. This is the rear one. For this one specifically, but usually the wear indicator goes in the rear. That's the pads back in. And so the reason you want to put a little bit of grease on the back of your pads and your slide pins, that's so that they don't seize, and it allows them to slide, do their job much more efficiently. You don't want to use like oil or anything. What you want to use is like brake grease specifically. It's usually lithium, I believe. But it is messy. Try not to get it on the face of the pads and the rotor. If you do, just wipe it off and try not to make too much of a mess. Just like that. That's how you do the front brakes on a 86 to 94 Toyota with independent front suspension. It's pretty simple. It's just a little messy and a little bit of a hassle just because you have to break the hub apart. But once you do all that, it's pretty easy. Remember to torque everything down. Yeah, just remember to torque everything down. Spray the rotors with some brake clean. Make sure that they're nice and clean, don't have any grease on them, and you're good to go. And yep, that's it. Thank you for watching. Hopefully this helps someone. It wouldn't be a Toyota without a little bit of oil on the ground when it hasn't even been running. Well, deuces.